All right. One of the major problems in your life, in fact, I'd say the principal problem in your life, really, is that you surround yourself with the wrong sort of people. Let me just bring up something because I had a little note here. If you can't see, if you're listening to this, then I'm just browsing quickly through my notes because I do have lots and lots of notes on what I'm going to talk about. Yeah, you essentially surround yourself with people who have given up. That's your main problem. That's why you're not going anywhere. Because you are the sum of the five people that you're closest to. Think about it. If you and your friends, or you and your so called friends, if you're all having this, oh, I can't do it. Oh, this is so difficult. Oh, I don't know what to do. This is boring. I don't think we're ever gonna make it. If you all have this attitude, and this infects your mind, this brain rot allows itself, or you're allowing this brain rot to propagate like a vicious bone cancer. Eventually, it's going to spread to your mere bones and to your soul and to your mind. And you're going to become what you believe. I know this sounds kind of woo woo, and I'll try to land as quickly as I can down on planet Earth. But please hear me out because it really is important. The attitude and the mindset that you have, at the risk of sounding too cliche, is really what will drive you forward. And if you're surrounding yourself with people who give up before they've even tried, then what does that tell you about yourself? Because listen, you are the sum of the five people that you're closest to. So let's take an example. If you're working a normal corporate job and you want to start a side hustle, and all of your friends or all of your coworkers, all of your friends, they're boring, ordinary people, and they surely don't want to do the work. They don't want to do. They don't want to work the late hours. They don't want to get up early in the morning. They don't want to sacrifice their, I don't know, entertainment time to work on a side business. They don't want to pay for a Facebook ad, or they don't want to start an online store. They don't want to do anything. But then, why are you surrounding yourself with them? Why aren't you just walking away? See, as much as it pains me to advocate for being alone, because I really don't, well, then maybe that's the time for you to be alone and to walk away from them, because they are genuinely keeping you down. Literally, they are keeping you down, and there's nothing that you can do about it. Or there, there is something that you can do about it, and it is to stay away from them. Because they are ruining your mood, and they're ruining your lust, and they're ruining your willingness to work. If you were surrounded by people who were working hard all the time, then you would automatically be working hard as well. Think about it. You can't be the only guy who's not working. It's kind of like if you're going to a fight gym. If you're going to a fight gym and you're doing BJJ and they're sparring, and you don't want to spar, well, so just to be crystal clear here, it's fine if you're injured, if you're already sparred, if you're exhausted, I guess. But if everyone else is sparring, that does something to you. You want to spar yourself. I mean, why else would you show up for BJJ practice? Yeah, sparring might be scary and might be difficult, and you're probably gonna get submitted. I mean, ask me how I know. But it's good for you. And so, if you're going to BJJ practice, or boxing, or Muay Thai, whatever it is, then of course there's going to be sparring. Yeah, there's going to be drilling of techniques, but there's also going to be sparring. The hard part, the difficult part. Some people think it's fun, which is fine. I think it's one of the hardest parts, but whatever. But that's beside the point. The point is, if you're the only guy who consistently shows up for BJJ and you don't want to spar, you never want to spar, you kind of become the social outcast of the fight gym, I would assume. I mean, at the very least, that applies for the fight gyms where I frequent. I don't know about you. However, if you think about this in real life, do you want to be the social outcast? That's just the different guy. That every single time you meet up with your friends and colleagues and acquaintances or whatever, they always want to drag you down. They always want to try to persuade and convince you not to work as hard. Do you really want to do that? In fact, this actually reminds me of something that happened to me a long, long time ago. I've told you this story previously, I think, but I might as well just tell it now because it contains so many lessons. So, this was at a time that I was jogging a lot. I was going for runs, I was jogging outside. And me and my then partner were living together in an apartment, and we were expecting guests. I think it was some of our, I don't exactly remember who it was. Some close family members would show up, and I planned on going for a run that afternoon because it was beautiful weather outside. It was great for getting a workout done, and where we live, there were a lot of perfectly prepared trails for going for a run. And so the family members arrive, we hang out a little bit, and then I go, oh, by the way, I'm gonna go for a run soon. And then one particular family member in question just tells me, look, you don't have to run every single day. Just calm down. Just pause. Just don't work as hard. You don't need to run. And I, foolishly enough, allowed myself to be persuaded by that sort of attitude. Now, I never forget that moment, because whenever I feel like not working out, whenever I feel like not doing something, whenever I feel like just relaxing and slacking, I think of that very moment. Because I was so frustrated and pissed off with myself that I didn't go for a run because I allowed myself to be persuaded by this person, by this individual. And more, actually, and this is very, very important. It wasn't like the one run that I never did would affect my whole life. Of course, it was just one run, but it was the attitude. And from there on, my life pretty much started going downhill with respect to physicality. I started putting on a lot of weight. My blood pressure probably increased as well. I'm saying probably because I never measured the blood pressure, but it probably did. I became fat, ugly, lazy, and I developed these nasty habits of eating these unhealthy foods. And yeah, where was I going with this? Yeah, the point is simply that sort of attitude, that sort of occasion, that sort of happening was really the beginning of the beginning of me becoming unhealthy and developing these unhealthy habits and surrounding myself with the wrong sort of people. The sort of people who look for excuses to not work hard. That's not in my DNA. In fact, there was another close family member who told me once that when I was a kid and somebody would persuade me to do something that I really wanted to do, or that I really didn't want to do, they would say something along the lines of, yeah, but everyone else is doing it. Your friends are doing it. Your buddies are doing it. And I supposedly would have said, or I supposedly told them, yes, but I don't want to do it. Just think about that. I don't want to do it. And this sort of attitude is precisely the sort of attitude that's going to separate and distinguish you from those loser dorks who want to keep you down, the crabs in a bucket mentality, the tall puppy syndrome. Oh, do you think you're so much better than us? Do you think you're faster than us? Do you think you're stronger than us? Do you think you're more handsome than us? Do you think you're more successful than us? Yes, motherfuckers, I actually do. And now I'm gonna prove it. Even if it takes me 10 years, even if it takes me 15 years, even if it takes me the rest of my life. I forgot the guy's name. Colonel Sanders, the guy who invented KFC. I think he was 68 years old when he became a successful entrepreneur. And then regrettably, I think he passed away a couple of years later. But from my understanding, he also served in the American Civil War. Somebody who's watching this may fact check me and correct me, but I do believe that was the case. Anyway, my point is simple. Not that I'm gonna advocate for KFC, obviously, because it's not healthy. But from a business standpoint, it's a brilliant lesson. Because guess what? KFC is alive and breathing today in 2026. So what's the point here? What's the lesson? The lesson is that the guy who started KFC actually knew a thing or two about business, and he didn't give up before he was successful, I assume. And that's precisely what you have to do as well, because you're surrounding yourself with the wrong sort of people who want you to fail. In my case, I surrounded myself with lazy people who allowed me to put on weight, who encouraged me to put on weight. And you know what? When I was at my fattest, they didn't even comment on my weight. But when I started losing weight, then they told me that, oh, you should slow down. You shouldn't be losing that much weight. You should be careful. This is dangerous. What? What is dangerous about losing weight? It's the same thing with making money. I mean, is making money dangerous? Is being successful, is having a successful business dangerous? No, it's not. I actually advocate that not having a successful business is dangerous. Because, well, I don't need to tell you why. We all know that with more money comes more options and more freedom. And by extension, that means that money actually can buy you happiness. Now, I don't need to talk to you about that. But I do need to remind you, and I'm going to remind you every single day probably, or every single time that you're watching one of these videos or listening to one of these podcasts, that your main problem is that you're surrounding yourself with the wrong sort of people. The sort of people who are lazy and who are looking for excuses not to work hard. There was, I think it was on the Diary of a CEO podcast, Tony Robbins recently made an appearance. And when it comes to business and entrepreneurship, I'm all ears when it comes to Tony Robbins. Not these motivational, yeah, you can walk on coal, yeah, motivation. See, I can't even do a Tony Robbins impression, but what's the term I'm looking for? Not impression, but impersonation, because my voice is getting messed up. But you know what I mean. Yeah, I'm Tony Robbins. I'm just smiling when I'm thinking about it, really. But yeah, when it comes to business and entrepreneurship and money and finances, I'm all ears when it comes to Tony Robbins. I think if I'm not wrong, his businesses generate some $12 billion in revenue annually, which is crazy. So what are the things that he said when it comes to finding the right sort of people, the right sort of leaders and CEOs for his businesses and so on? Is finding the right sort of people who are hungry. And that's precisely what you need to find as well. That's the H word that you're looking for. The N word is no. Say no to the lazy people. Say no to the time and energy vampires who suck your drive, your energy. And look for the hungry people. The H word. Hunger. Right? And of course, not hungry for pizza and tacos and KFC. That's not what we're talking about here. We all need to eat. We know that. And we shouldn't be eating those foods. So then what should you be looking for instead? Hungry people who want to grow. all the time, who don't want to relax, who want to take their business to the next level, who aren't satisfied with just making $1 billion. No, they want to generate. They want to grow. Excuse me. They want to make $2 billion. Not that I'm one of these climate advocates, but Tony Robbins actually said something that was very, very important and very, 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 very important in this regard. He said that because he owned a private plane and because of the pollution and everything, he wanted to plant more trees because there were deforestation and so on going on, which is fine. And this just proves my point. He says something about planting 100 million trees. That's impressive. Well, maybe I should fact check myself. 100 million trees is crazy. I think that's what he said, actually. 100 million trees. But it can't be. Let's say 1 million trees, because that's plenty. Anyway, 100 million, 10 million, a million trees, lots and lots of trees he wanted to plant. See, he ain't satisfied until he's planted probably 100 million trees. It's going to take its time, but still. And that's my point. You need to find these people who are hungry for more, these people who can't stop working. Because if not, you are impeding your own business growth, and you are impeding your own financial growth, and you also are allowing your time and energy to be sucked dry and abused. Every single second counts. Every single minute counts. Make the most out of it. Because you don't have time for anything else, because all of a sudden you're dead. Think about it. Now, this was a little bit grim and morbid, but whatever. Doesn't really matter. What matters is this. Focus on growth. Surround yourself with hungry people. The H word. Surround yourself with hungry people. And watch what happens to your time and energy. If you want to learn more about time and energy management, as well as how to avoid the time and energy vampires of your life, then get subscribed to my email list. The link to do so is in the episode description, wherever you are watching and or are listening to this. And I'll see you there.